Beloved souls of light and seekers of divine wisdom, today I come before you with a message of urgency, clarity, and profound importance, a message delivered through the heavenly guidance of Archangel Michael, the mighty protector, defender of truth, and champion of divine justice. His voice calls forth across the spiritual realms, breaking through the noise of worldly distractions, to remind you that we are living in a time where vigilance, faith, and spiritual awareness are no longer optional but absolutely essential. Archangel Michael raises his sword of light not to instill fear, but to awaken hearts and minds to the unseen forces that seek to derail, confuse, and weaken your divine purpose. The cry of urgency and protection that comes through him is a call for you to open your heart, to sharpen your awareness, and to position yourself firmly under the covering of divine light. Harmful words, false accusations, spiritual opposition, and malicious energies have long been used as weapons in the battle against truth, faith, and righteousness. Yet Archangel Michael assures you that these weapons will not prosper against those who are shielded in God's protection. His message is immediate and timeless. Do not delay, do not slumber in indifference, but awaken now to the pressing nature of the spiritual warfare unfolding all around you. The nature of the threat you face is not merely physical or visible. Rather, it is spiritual, subtle, and cunning, manifesting in doubts, fears, distorted perceptions, missed opportunities, and energy that seeks to pull you away from your higher calling. These attacks come not only as external challenges but also as inner battles of thought, belief, and perception, seeking to erode your trust in divine guidance. Yet Archangel Michael, in his steadfast role as defender and protector, reminds you that your strength lies not in resisting with your own power but in surrendering fully to divine protection, trust, and spiritual alignment. His command is clear: take up God's promises, stand firm in faith, and declare the truth over your life with unwavering confidence. For just as the angels of heaven surround the throne of God, so too are you surrounded by divine guardianship when you invoke the name of Michael and align yourself with the power of prayer and truth. This is why the call to awareness, faith, and action is so critical in this hour. It is not enough to simply know of the dangers. You must also respond by anchoring yourself in prayer, by declaring divine promises over your life, and by refusing to give room for fear or doubt to take root. Remember, you are chosen, you are shielded, you are loved, and you are encircled by the light of heaven. Michael's role is to awaken you to this truth so that no matter the intensity of the battle, you may walk with confidence that ultimate victory belongs to God and to those who stand under his covering. Spiritual warfare is not to be feared but to be discerned and prepared for, and Michael's urgent call is to recognize that your faith is your most powerful weapon, your prayer is your strongest shield, and your trust is your unshakable foundation. He reminds you that when you lift your voice in prayer and trust, angelic hosts are dispatched on your behalf, working behind the veil of the unseen to dismantle plots, neutralize harm, and open doors that the enemy sought to close. Awareness means vigilance, being alert to the tactics that come to undermine your confidence, distract your purpose, or create division and confusion. Faith means holding steady, refusing to yield ground to despair, and believing that God's hand is at work even in what appears to be chaos. Action means responding with prayer, with declaration of truth, and with steps of obedience that align you with the will of heaven. In this way you resist the attacks of the adversary and advance forward in divine strength. The battle may be fierce, but remember, you are never abandoned. Michael and the heavenly host fight with you and for you, and your alignment with God places you always in a position of triumph. As the message unfolds, Michael draws attention to the symbolism of the attacks you face. When your reputation is challenged, it is a test of your strength and character. When words are spoken against you, it is an attempt to weaken your confidence. When malicious intent surrounds you, it is a reminder to stand firmer in your truth. Yet every attack becomes an opportunity for you to prove the depth of your faith and to see God's hand turn opposition into victory. The weight and symbolism of the struggle point not to your weakness but to the spiritual treasure within you, the divine purpose that is so valuable it draws resistance. Thus, every challenge you face is an indicator of your significance in the kingdom of light. The promise of divine justice and restoration shines brightly as Archangel Michael assures that no weapon formed against you shall ultimately prosper. Those who speak against you unjustly shall face the consequences of their actions, and truth will always prevail in the end. This is not only a promise of personal vindication but also a universal principle that justice, though it may tarry, always finds its fulfillment in divine timing. Therefore, hold steadfast in patience and trust, knowing that every trial will ultimately yield to restoration and empowerment. The role of prayer and trust cannot be overstated in this message. Prayer is the channel through which divine strength flows, and trust is the anchor that keeps you steady amidst the storm. Archangel Michael calls upon you to lift your prayers not as empty words but as declarations of truth, shields of light that push back the darkness, and affirmations of your alignment with heaven's power. He reminds you that your voice matters, your prayer matters, your faith matters, and together they summon divine intervention in ways you may not always see immediately but which are always working for your ultimate good. Thus, beloved, take this message not as mere words of comfort but as a commissioning, a charge to awaken, to rise, to engage, and to walk forward with courage, for the victory has already been written and the light of heaven surrounds you always. Beloved ones, as the message of Archangel Michael deepens, let your spirit be stirred by the truth that this is not a time for passivity, hesitation, or complacency, but rather a sacred summons into active participation with divine purpose. The call is both personal and collective, for you are not only being reminded of your individual role in the unfolding spiritual narrative, but also of your unity with a body of believers across the world who stand together as one radiant army of light. Divine protection and spiritual empowerment are not abstract ideas. They are living realities that manifest when faith meets action, when prayer is offered in earnest, and when hearts choose trust over fear. Archangel Michael, clothed in radiant power, reminds you that the forces arrayed against truth, goodness, and righteousness are persistent, yet they are not invincible, for their strength lies only in illusion, deception, and the absence of awareness. The very moment you awaken to the truth of who you are, the authority vested in you by the Creator, and the power of divine light within, their influence begins to crumble. The enemy's primary weapon is to sow confusion, distort perception, and weaken confidence in your divine identity, but when you align yourself with Michael's call, you stand shielded in God's truth and become impervious to these manipulations. Consider how often in your journey, opposition has arisen at the very brink of breakthrough, as though forces sought to rob you of blessings and opportunities before they could fully manifest. Archangel Michael teaches that these moments of heightened attack are also indicators of impending victory, signals that the enemy perceives the light growing within you and fears the transformation you are stepping into. Therefore, he calls you not to retreat in discouragement but to advance boldly in prayer, to declare your rightful inheritance of peace, protection, and purpose. His words echo with authority: pray without ceasing, trust without doubting, and act without wavering, for divine justice is already written into the framework of the universe. Every malicious word spoken against you is met with divine correction, every false accusation dissolves in the light of truth, and every attempt to destabilize you becomes fuel for your growth when you hold fast to faith. Spiritual warfare, though it may sound daunting, is not to be dreaded, for it is not fought with the weapons of flesh but with the strength of spirit. Prayer, trust, forgiveness, discernment, and obedience are your weapons, and with them you dismantle the very foundations of darkness. Michael urges you to recognize hidden intentions, to see beyond surface appearances, and to respond not with anger or retaliation but with clarity, truth, and divine wisdom. When words come to wound, you respond with declarations of blessing. When schemes arise against you, you anchor yourself deeper in prayer. When opposition tries to silence your light, you shine even brighter, for the darkness cannot overcome what is eternal. This is the essence of spiritual empowerment, the ability to transform every attack into an opportunity for spiritual elevation. Remember, too, that divine justice is not only about defending you but also about restoring balance, bringing to light what has been hidden, and exalting truth where lies have sought to dominate. Michael promises that no injustice endures forever, for the scales of heaven are perfectly balanced, and every tear shed, every trial endured, is recorded and redeemed in the timing of God. Your role is to endure with faith, to stand with patience, and to trust that divine timing never fails. He further emphasizes that prayer is not an act of desperation but a declaration of dominion, a statement that you choose alignment with the power that governs all creation. When you pray, you are not pleading for help from a distance, you are activating the very presence of God within you, calling forth angels to surround and guide you, and opening channels of light that break through the densest clouds of opposition. This is why Michael insists that prayer and trust are your lifelines, not occasional practices but daily commitments that keep you rooted in divine protection. In recognizing the symbolism of the attack, Michael teaches that what comes against you is often proportionate to the greatness of the light within you. The stronger the resistance, the more significant the mission you carry, for the enemy does not waste energy on those who pose no threat to darkness. Thus, your trials are evidence of your worth, your spiritual importance, and the divine calling upon your life. Stand firm, then, not in despair but in gratitude, knowing that the very opposition you face confirms the presence of divine treasure within you. In every confrontation, see not only the pain but also the promise, not only the challenge but also the confirmation of who you are becoming. Michael's message is clear. Your story is not one of defeat but of victory, not of despair but of restoration, not of silence but of testimony. For as you endure, you will not only witness the crumbling of falsehoods around you but also the rising of truth, justice, and divine favor in ways that exceed your imagination. Therefore, beloved souls, let your heart be fortified, your spirit uplifted, and your mind anchored, for the God of heaven has not left you defenseless. Michael and the heavenly hosts stand ready at your side, surrounding you with light, strengthening you in weakness, and ensuring that every step you take is guarded. Your response is simply to believe, to pray, to trust, and to walk boldly forward into the fullness of your calling, knowing that divine protection is your inheritance and ultimate victory is assured. Beloved children of light, as Archangel Michael's message continues, let us turn our attention more deeply to the weight and symbolism of the attacks you endure, for in understanding them you gain clarity about your purpose, your strength, and your destiny. When Michael speaks of spiritual warfare, he does not speak to overwhelm you with fear but to awaken you to discernment, to recognize that nothing in your life happens without spiritual significance. Every insult hurled at you, every false word spoken, every shadow of doubt cast upon your path carries within it a lesson, a signal, and an invitation to rise higher. The attacks on your reputation symbolize the testing of your inner strength, reminding you that your worth is not determined by what others say but by who you are in the eyes of the divine. The assaults against your confidence are meant to strip you of your courage, yet in truth they reveal how resilient you truly are when you anchor yourself in God's promises. The struggles you face in silence are mirrors, reflecting both your humanity and your divinity, reminding you that you are vulnerable in the flesh but unbreakable in spirit. Michael reminds you that these battles are not punishments but validations, evidence that your life carries weight in the eternal design, and that your presence on earth has purpose so profound it draws both opposition and angelic defense. When you begin to interpret the trials you encounter not as random misfortunes but as spiritual markers, you shift from victimhood to victory, from confusion to clarity, and from despair to empowerment. The symbolism of every challenge becomes a code that, when understood, strengthens your faith and sharpens your vision. This is why Michael insists that discernment is as critical as prayer. For discernment allows you to see what lies beneath appearances, to identify the true source of opposition, and to respond with wisdom instead of reaction. The spiritual significance of the turmoil you experience is profound. It is not meant to destroy you but to forge you, to test and strengthen your resolve, to elevate your trust in divine timing, and to shape you into a vessel of light capable of carrying greater responsibility and blessing. Michael proclaims that every setback is but a setup for restoration, that what the enemy intends for harm becomes the very soil from which your growth springs forth. The storms you face are not signs of abandonment but rather the proving ground of your faith, the training ground of your spirit, and the arena in which divine justice reveals its power. This is why Archangel Michael speaks of the promise of divine justice and restoration with such unshakable certainty, for he has witnessed throughout the ages that the hand of God never fails, the scales of truth are never permanently tilted, and the light always triumphs over the shadow. Injustice may appear to thrive for a season, lies may seem loud for a moment, but their endurance is an illusion, for divine law always brings balance, exposes deceit, and uplifts those who remain steadfast in truth. Therefore, when you face ridicule, betrayal, or malicious intent, take heart, for you are not left unshielded nor are you forsaken. The heavens hear every cry, see every tear, and respond with a justice that may not always appear in the timing you expect but always manifests in the way that brings forth the greatest good. Michael reminds you that divine justice is not merely about retribution but about restoration, about healing what has been broken, reclaiming what has been stolen, and elevating you beyond what you thought possible. The key is to remain faithful, for your endurance is the bridge between trial and triumph. This endurance is not passive but active, a conscious choice to continue praying when silence surrounds you, to continue trusting when evidence seems lacking, and to continue standing when the weight of opposition presses heavily. Michael assures you that those who endure in such faith are never disappointed, for the crown of victory awaits them, the light of truth vindicates them, and the hand of God restores them in ways that astonish both friend and foe alike. Beloved souls, let this promise settle in your heart. No word of slander spoken against you will hold power forever. No scheme devised in secret will remain hidden indefinitely. No chain of oppression will bind you eternally, for the sword of divine justice cuts through all falsehood and sets the captives free. Michael, as the great defender, stands at your side in these battles, wielding the authority of heaven not only to shield you but also to embolden you, reminding you that your role is not simply to survive the attacks but to transcend them, to transform them into testimonies of resilience, faith, and divine empowerment. In every trial you face, remember his words. You are chosen, you are shielded, you are guided, and you are victorious, for the light within you cannot be extinguished, and the God above you cannot be defeated. Walk, then, with confidence, knowing that even the greatest storms are but passing shadows compared to the eternal brilliance of the light that carries you forward. Beloved ones, as this sacred message of Archangel Michael reaches its conclusion, let your heart be filled with certainty and hope, for everything shared is not only a warning but a promise, not only a call to vigilance but also a declaration of victory already prepared for you in the divine plan. Michael reminds you once more that you were never created to live in fear, but to walk boldly as a child of light, entrusted with divine purpose and shielded by heavenly armies. The trials you face, though painful in the moment, are like flames that purify gold. They do not destroy your essence but refine your spirit, strengthen your resolve, and reveal the brilliance of your true identity. The very challenges meant to silence your voice are transformed into opportunities to magnify your testimony, and the wounds you carry become places where light shines even brighter. Michael insists that you do not underestimate the power of your prayers, for each one rises like incense before the throne of God, drawing angelic forces into action on your behalf. Your whispered prayers in the quiet of the night, your declarations spoken in faith, your simple trust in moments of weakness, all of these reverberate in the spiritual realm, shaking foundations, dismantling chains, and opening doors that no human hand could open. Prayer is not only your defense but also your offense, pushing back the darkness and carving out space for truth to flourish. Trust, likewise, is not passive but an active alignment with heaven, a steady decision to believe even when circumstances seem contrary. When you trust, you anchor yourself in eternal reality rather than temporary appearances, and this anchoring shields you from the storms that rage around you. Michael reminds you that trust is a shield no enemy can penetrate, for it surrounds you with divine assurance and blocks the fiery darts of despair, doubt, and fear. The promise of restoration is not only about returning what was lost but also about multiplying it, elevating it, and transforming it into something far greater than you could have imagined. Michael declares that when God restores, he does not simply give back in equal measure but overflows with abundance, blessing you in ways that leave no doubt about the divine source of your victory. What was stolen will be returned sevenfold, what was broken will be made whole, and what was hidden will be revealed in light so radiant that even those who opposed you will recognize the hand of God upon your life. This is the divine justice you are called to trust in, not limited to human retribution, but surpassing it with eternal restoration and glory. Michael calls upon you now to step fully into awareness. Awareness means you see the world not only with physical eyes but with spiritual vision, discerning the subtle influences around you, recognizing the tactics of the enemy, and identifying the opportunities for divine action. Awareness also means remembering at all times who you are and whose you are, never allowing circumstances, criticisms, or trials to define you but holding fast to your identity as a beloved child of God. Faith then becomes the lens through which you interpret every challenge, and action becomes the vehicle by which you embody your trust. Do not allow these words to remain as theory. Translate them into practice by setting aside time each day for prayer, by declaring words of life over yourself and others, by refusing to dwell on negativity, and by choosing to shine your light in even the smallest acts of kindness, forgiveness, and courage. This is how you embody Michael's call, and this is how you stand as a radiant beacon in a world often clouded with confusion. As the message of Archangel Michael closes, he reminds you that the battle is already won, the victory already secured, and the light already triumphant. The only task left for you is to align yourself with this truth, to walk in it with courage, and to trust in it with unshakable faith. You are not alone, beloved souls, for Michael and the heavenly host stand at your side, surrounding you with unseen strength, guiding your steps, and ensuring that every path you take leads ultimately to fulfillment, restoration, and glory. Walk, therefore, with head held high, not in arrogance but in confidence, knowing that you are cherished, protected, and empowered by the divine. The struggles you face today will one day be the stories you tell of triumph, the evidence you share of faith, and the testimony you offer to others who need encouragement. Never forget, you are not defined by your battles but by your victories, not by your wounds but by your healing, not by your past but by the destiny unfolding before you. And now, dear friends, if this message has stirred your spirit, if the words of Archangel Michael have brought you strength, clarity, and encouragement, I invite you to remain connected, to continue receiving these divine inspirations, and to walk this journey together. On my channel, Archangel Inspire, you will find not only words of guidance but also a community of souls committed to growing in faith, resilience, and light. Subscribing is not just about following a channel. It is about choosing to stay aligned with messages that uplift, empower, and remind you of your divine purpose. Think of it as placing yourself continually under the fountain of heavenly wisdom, ensuring that you are nourished, protected, and strengthened day by day. So, with love and gratitude, I invite you, subscribe to Archangel Inspire, not simply as an action of support, but as a declaration that you choose light over darkness, faith over fear, and victory over defeat. Together, let us walk in the radiance of Archangel Michael's message, inspired, empowered, and unshakable in the truth that we are eternally protected, eternally loved, and eternally victorious.